Welcome to All Villa, No Filler. Remember to subscribe to the show. Follow us on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Aston Villa play Kieran McKenna's Ipswich away this Sunday at Portman Road. To talk about the game, I'm joined by Benjamin Bloom from the Blue Monday podcast. It's great to speak to you, Benjamin. What have you made of Ipswich's return to the Premier League so far?
Oh, it's a very difficult question to answer because, on the one hand, Ipswich are above the dotted line with a 2 point gap. And if you stop the count now, everyone would consider this a wonderful, resounding success. And as Villa did, just get through the first season, survive, and build from there. On the other hand, Ipswich have not won a game of Premier League football yet. However, we have this record-breaking scenario now where it's the first time in Premier League history where we got six teams without a win in the first five games. So the low tide is helping. There's been good, there's been bad, but a big picture, if you're being really brutal about it, are you above 18th place or not? Yes, so I'll take it at the moment.
Yeah, I know. I've been to see Ipswich a fair few times, but it was a long time ago when I think Marcus Stewart era, sort of late 90s. I remember playing at Villa Park, maybe Villa won 2-1 or something like that. How different is the Premier League now to when Ipswich were previously here? Is it just a completely different animal now?
I mean, look, Ipswich were last in the Premier League in 2002. So even
Yeah.
if Ipswich had last been in the Premier League in 2015, you'd say it's a completely different animal. Obviously, the vast chasm in TV money between Champions League to Premier League to year one parachute teams to championships. There's just cliff edges all the way over football. And it kind of dawned on me actually in the transfer window. We're having this chat about proven Premier League players, right? And
Mm.
it's got to the point now where it's pretty well impossible without breaching P&S rules for a promoted team to come up and sign a few quote proven Premier League players because they'll all cost you 30, 35 million and 100 grand a week in wages. Not to mention if your team's gone back to back promotions and you've got a year of League One accounts on your 3 year rolling limit. So it's a bit broken, it's a bit crazy, but it's wonderful to be here. And particularly when we speak to the Leicester fans and Southampton fans who were very burned by, having been relegated before. I mean, it's great that this is not Villa's experience and they've managed to trend upwards nicely, but a lot of fans of teams down the bottom tell me, "Oh, I'd much rather be in the EFL. It's fun winning. It's more competitive." Let's be honest, football fans just like seeing the team win, don't they? But this sense in the Premier League that you're going to go weeks and months without winning the game is very palpable, and we've still got the new car smell 5 games in.
Yeah. Obviously Kieran McKenna has been the guiding force behind Ipswich jumping League One, Championship, Premier League. Absolutely extraordinary achievement. Just how good is Kieran McKenna?
I mean, you used the word yourself, extraordinary. Just last season, Ipswich saved top flight football essentially from the three teams promoted to the Premier League being relegated and the three teams relegated the previous season bouncing back up. And what was it, 96? Sorry, 97 Leicester, 96 Ipswich, 90 Leeds, and I think high 80s Southampton. I can't remember exactly what they got, but yeah, just an extraordinary achievement over the last couple of seasons. And yeah, sometimes, I mean, Ipswich have had it a couple of times in their history where, and I don't say this lightly when you're comparing people with Sir Ralph Ramsey and Sir Bobby Robson, but just lightning in a bottle, getting the right guy at the right time. And I've just spoken about all of those cliff edges. It makes no logical sense for a team to be able to go back to back promotions, least of all last season, like we said, with the three most powerful year one parachute teams in championship history. So just an incredible achievement, which kind of then colours all you're thinking about how can you complain about anything after what happened last season?
Yeah, I mean, I saw a bit of Ipswich in the Championship, and obviously very impressive. And it was fun to see I sort of think of Ipswich as when I started watching Premier League football in '92, I associate Ipswich with the Premier League so heavily. So it was just great to see a name coming back like that, having been away for so long. But how would you describe McKenna's style? Like, what is the Ipswich style of football?
Um, it's a difficult one to answer because he's very good at developing, seeing the picture and pivoting and changing. So in League One, it started very, very sort of high possession, and he sorted the defense out to begin with, and it didn't work in the first kind of half season. And he kind of twigged in the second season. In League One, you have to be this. Liam Richardson explained it to me very, very well. He won League One with Wigan. You have to be this hybrid. You have to be able to play. You have to be able to run, and you have to be able to fight more so than any other division. Where League One's weird. You get failed Premier League teams and basically teams with non-league setups that are punching west, a weird hodgepodge.
Yeah.
So he managed to get that hybrid style. In the Championship, obviously the possession dropped down, a little bit from dominating the ball in League One. At the end of the season, there were games where it was counter-attack and hang in there. But in the main, in the Championship, attacking, positive football, it's a big compliment when you're getting accused of being lucky. Because I've watched a lot of football, and as much as you might not like it when it happens against you, teams that repeatedly score deflected goals or late goals, they're not lucky. They're forcing teams into bad defensive positions and just hammering at the end of games to win them. Obviously, this season, you can take another 15% possession off, and there's been some good counter-attacking stuff. And I think we will land on the complete philosophy, hopefully as soon as possible, but it's not likely to be October, November until the game model is supposedly the same throughout the three divisions. But of course, if you're playing Aston Villa, who are a Champions League club in the Premier League, it's going to be different than playing Forest Green at home in League One, which we were doing within the past couple of years.
Yeah, you mentioned Aston Villa there, and how do you feel about going up against the Villa this weekend?
Oh, it's terrifying. Villa have been absolutely amazing, haven't they? And we sit there quite cockily, is that a word? Quite smugly as Ipswich fans. We think our manager can go toe to toe with most managers. And then look at who he's got to go up against this weekend. Just a brilliant, seasoned, success everywhere he's gone. And look what he's done at Villa. And I'm a big, I'm an England fan. I love Stevie Gerrard, but to take a lot of what Gerrard had and just completely, whoosh, up you go, just miles better. So Aston Villa have more money, better players, more tenure, a better manager. It's daunting, but that's the Premier League. We're going to say that a lot of weeks. Obviously, Villa are in the top three. We've already played Man City. We've already played Liverpool. In those games, we were competitive at times. Liverpool got a bit loose. That could have gone 3-4, 5-0. Man City, they scored 3 goals in 10 minutes, and Haaland, and you've got to put it into context. We're an ex-League One team playing against the greatest manager ever, probably who's going to be the greatest Premier League striker ever, who scores a hat-trick against us, and you're away from home. So, look, if Aston Villa play well and Ipswich play well, Aston Villa will win by 2 goals. But, it's football. I saw a clip of Vincent Kompany on the Burnley thing go and say they got 2 arms and 2 legs just like us, and you never know on the day.
Yeah, that's a very good way of putting it. There's just constant shocks in the Premier League as well that always spring up, and particularly away from home early in the season at a team that's just got promoted. There is just a momentum.
Mm.
That you know,
And
and
you've got the Champions League fixtures coming each and every week, so we'll look at every little hope we can get.
yeah, yeah. I don't know how much you watch of Villa. You know, you mentioned an England fan, so you've probably seen a fair few of our players through that. I mean, is there anyone in particular that gives you real cause for concern?
John Duran, because he seems to win my goal of the month, my goal of the week. So look, I cover the Championship extensively on the Benjamin Bloom football channel. So obviously I'm very familiar with the likes of Ramsey and Rodgers and McGinn and Watkins and Konza who have been there over time. It's the obviously Emi Martinez is a World Cup winner, so everyone knows who he is. But it's a who's who, and I think the most impressive thing Emery's done is, and this is what good managers do, don't they? They take player A, and player A is playing at this level, and up he goes to a different level. Morgan Rodgers, especially when I'm looking at Villa. Okay, you're going to sell Jaden Philogene, and then you're going to sign Morgan Rodgers later in that season, and is he that much better? And it's like, yeah, and Emery knows what he's doing. So yeah, look, when you're a fan of a promoted team, you're often looking at lineups where all 11 players of the other, you say who would get in your side. Essentially, the Champions League squad, every single one of the Villa players. I mean, we have Calvin Phillips, who at his absolute peak, was a Champions League player, and we got some, Amari Hutchinson from Chelsea as a youngster coming through at a big club. But for Aston Villa, you'll joke about it. That's a trade-in player switch to get FFP now, Amari Hutchinson, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
just absolutely stacked lineup. And I loved Ollie Watkins when he scored that goal for England in the summer. So
Amazing, wasn't
yeah, let's hope he doesn't do that
it?
on Sunday, but he may well do.
Yeah, and I mean, how do you think like Kieran McKenna might set up for this game? Like, what are you sort of expecting from the Ipswich team, or is it too early in the season to really predict how he might approach this game?
I think there's only if we sit back and counter attack, then you lose and you kind of wonder what if against Fulham, who admittedly are a middling Premier League team, whereas Aston Villa are a Champions League team. They did press, and against Liverpool they did as well. And even the most hardened Villa fan would probably think, well, Liverpool and Man City are a level above. Even Villa are in third spot. So I think they might try and press the hell out of Villa for the first 20 minutes and try and get in front, which is risky, isn't it? Because if Villa can pick them off, then it's a very long 70 minutes for the rest of the game, isn't it? But I think at Portman Road, Ipswich are going to be more attacking than they are away from home. So, and as you pointed out yourself, you've got to, try and leverage some good feeling and momentum and noisy stadium while the feeling's still there. So I think Ipswich might actually be quite aggressive for the first 20, 25 minutes. And yeah, as I said, that is a high risk, high reward strategy.
Yeah, and I mean, one thing I would say as well, is that Aston Villa, whilst we've had such a good start to the season, we do concede goals. We've conceded in every game so far. So I'd say if for Villa, it's integral that we survive the first 20 minutes. I think then we could start to impose ourselves with ball players like Tielemans and Ross Barkley maybe later in the game. But looking at Ipswich's team, I've studied you a fair bit. A couple of players that caught my eye. Leif Davis, left back. It looks like he's a really integral player for Ipswich. Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah, it's just difficult though, because in League One, he's the best fullback in the league, and in the Championship, he was numbers to die for.
Yeah.
And Ipswich were able to set up a lopsided system that put him way up the pitch. Essentially, he's on the wing most of the game, and you tuck round, and it becomes like a 3-4-3 or what you use whatever. People get very prickly about presenting 10 footballers on a pitch, whatever numbers. Use whatever's comfortable for you. But look at Leif Davis's heat map, massively high up the pitch. This season, it's obviously going to be different, and it's just funny because like the first 3 games, he had Mohamed Salah, then Savinho, and then Adama Traore up against him on the
Yeah.
on the right wing. for the first three games, so it was very, very tricky for him. Obviously, it's much harder to whack your left back 50 yards up the pitch and, you know, have covering players. So it's going to be an interesting season for Leif Davis, but he's got all the qualities to become a Premier League fullback, and I'm sure he still will be one by whatever means next season. But yeah, he's still absolutely key.
Yeah, and then like a couple of others as well. Amari Hutchinson, of course. Was it Chelsea you came in from? I think it was. You signed him from.
Yeah, so he was at Arsenal, and I think Chelsea paid quite a thick wedge to get him. And again, we talked about the cliff edges. It's one of these situations. Nottingham Forest had it particularly with loan players, where even to have a team as good as you had in the second tier when you're in the Premier League, you immediately have to drop 20 million quid to get the loanee. Hutchinson grew into the most integral player for the last 6 weeks of the season. He was the guy making the difference at the top end of the pitch. Far more difficult in the Premier League, and he's playing in the kind of number 10 position rather than coming in from the right now.
Yeah, and because I looked at some of his stats, and it looks like he has made a bit of an impact so far in the Premier League. He's trying to make things happen, and of course Liam Delap as well up front. How's he sort of bedded in? I know he got a great goal against Fulham, I think it was, but yeah, how's he looking so far?
Well, in these horrible games we've had no possession, Liam Delap's played the kind of Forrest Gump role of, look, we're struggling, mate. What you can do is you can buy Premier League physicality. I know this is what dawned on me in the Fulham game, is that all of Fulham's players, and they're in mid-table, are either brilliant technically, brilliant physically, or both. And I look at your lad, Anana, in midfield, where you're like, he's technically brilliant, and he's a bloody, freak of nature in terms of his size and, physicality. So that's what you're up against. But Liam Delap, okay, we hope the quality grows, but gives you Premier League physicality. And yeah, the job is run yourself into the ground and carry the ball and get us out of trouble and press. Fortunately now, George Hurst is fit again, so two bodies can share that 90-minute role, in the number 9 spot.
Okay, and Calvin Phillips as well. I know he was injured against Southampton in your previous game. Is there any update on him at all, or is it just wait and see?
I mean, obviously, we're massively hopeful that he's going to be fit. I've been told not a long-term problem, and thigh, I think. And yeah, I mean, that's your great white hope. You mentioned Barkley as well, that you can bring in a player who, in his pomp, you could never get near and never afford to get, but maybe a little downturn in the career, and you can hopefully get this player who's essentially too good for you. And that's what Luton did with Barkley last year, and look where he is now. And that's what we're hoping to do with Phillips. But yeah, he's the one player we've got in the squad that's got real, caliber.
Yeah. And anyone else that Villa fans should look out for, do you think? Or
I mean, look out for Sammy Morsey, who was known as just a hatchet man in League One. In the Championship, playing for Wigan and Middlesbrough. And Kieran McKenna, we said about Emery developing players. He's just a great central midfielder now. He will probably get booked, but we absolutely love him, and he's the captain. And yeah, look out for Jacob Greaves, because whatever happens, you have to build stars. And if you are relegated, you have to go down with much more assets. And we have a tall, left-footed English centre-back who's doing rather well.
right.
And, it's very easy to look at defenders' numbers when you're having 30% possession and, they've got loads of clearances and loads of interceptions. But that's probably what we're going to need from the centre-backs against the likes of Watkins and, Rodgers and Duran, presumably off the bench this week.
Okay, well, just as a final question, I don't know whether I should ask people predictions on this show, because it's always a mug's game, really. But I mean, basically, do you think Ipswich can get a result this weekend?
No. In theory, if Villa play well and Ipswich play well, Villa win. So what you're hoping for is for Villa to be under par and Ipswich to get a lightning in a bottle day and just catch them. And can you get a draw? Can you get a win? Can you take the lead? Is there a red card for Villa or a dodgy penalty for Ipswich? Or that's what you're hoping for, something to even up the fact that Villa have better players, a better manager, more money, and more tenure. I went for 2-0 Villa. I just think Emery's too good to get caught out by that type of stuff. And of course, I hope I am completely wrong. And this is what Villa have become. This is not Dr. Tony's Villa and Steve Bruce and Ross McCormack anymore, and Jack Grealish getting you kind of. I know Villa fans. Yeah, Villa fans get a bit prickly about me saying, Jack Grealish dragged you over. I know Tammy Abraham had a big say in that, and of course Axel Tuanzebe was in that in that run under Dean Smith at the end of that particular campaign. But no, look, if Ipswich can get a result against the Champions League team, then that will be magnificent. But we've all sat down and looked at where can we have a point and where can we, and we got a point against Brighton we didn't think we were going to get, but unfortunately, most people had 3 points against Southampton and a 0 against Villa. So I don't know. We'll see. But no, of course, Villa are massive favourites.
Benjamin, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you, and I'm absolutely delighted to see Ipswich back in the Premier League as well. So hopefully we can do this again later in the season and for many more seasons to come. And just before we go, where can we find you and your work online?
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks so much for having me. And I think after Main Road got knocked down, I think Villa's probably my favourite kind of away ground to go to. Just absolutely, just drips it, doesn't it, compared to a lot of the identikit stadiums you get now. But so you can find me solo on the Benjamin Bloom football channel. Just type that into YouTube and check out through the week we've got loads of Villa content. There's Blue Monday Rewind, looking at games past against Villa, and we still haven't forgiven you for 1981, of course, our big chance to win the title. But there you go. The preview show will be up on Thursday, and we'll be reviewing the game on Sunday. So if you're a Villa fan, come and have your say in the chat. We love a different perspective from opposition fans. That's over on the Blue Monday podcast.
Well, brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on, Benjamin.
Pleasure.